Alrighty, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5:05 p.m. For attendance, we have Alice Williams, Brandon Thomas, Joey Bryant, Jessica Kita, we have Bjorn Pelmier, and Keegan Jolly in attendance. I'm going to go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this week.
Seconded.
Oh, we got to have a motion on the table first. Do we have a motion?
Oh.
Yeah. Are you making Perfect. Alrighty, so a motion by Brandon.
I'll second that.
Awesome. Second by Alice. And then with that in mind, we'll go ahead and move on to approve the minutes from last week. Do I have a motion on the table? Or I'm entertaining a motion. Perfect. We've got a motion from Bjorn. And do we have a second? Perfect. Second from Brandon. So we'll go ahead and move on to reports. I have no reports, so I'll go ahead and move it on to the advisors.
Yeah, so just an update. I am back fully in the office as of Tuesday. So quickly catching up as much as I can, as Jessica knows. And so pretty much up to speed on where we're at with most stuff. So there's a few things I'll share when we get to communications received, just as heads up for you all. Otherwise, I did reach out to Joel regarding the memos that we had sent the end of last quarter. He hasn't sent the official memos, but I anticipate that essentially he's moving forward with the recommendations that we had made. So we will get that here shortly as things come up. Also going back through, because the program reviews, which we'll be looking at into this quarter, beginning of spring, were all due. However, that also happened to coincide when we were unexpectedly out. So I'm double checking to make sure that everyone got them submitted. It looks like everyone has, but if there's anyone missing, I'll be following up with them directly. But that's what I got.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joey. And as for student government, ASCWU, Frey Brady is out this week, and I have not have any communications received. So we'll go ahead and assume no reports from student government. And yeah, so that kind of leads into communications received. I have not received any. Have the advisory gotten any communications received?
Yeah, so the only real communication, so there's two separate, but they're kind of related. One is just a heads up to you all. I anticipate we may have some supplemental requests from base funding units that may be coming forward. I know that they were submitted. They haven't been reviewed to make sure that they meet the criteria before they go to you all. And so that'll happen from circuit counting. But that may be coming up in one of our upcoming meetings. Just so you all know, I did get notified that there were two supplemental requests being submitted, I think end of last week, potentially. The other part is, as an update, we did get a notice, and this has to do with one of the supplemental requests, but from our RSOs, Registered Student Organizations group that we fund. So they did let us know pretty much where they're at, is they have received a pretty huge influx of funding requests. I think last week they were looking at over $300,000 in requests just in that meeting. They currently, with their budget, shared that they are pretty close to expending their funds before that decision was made. And so I anticipate we may see a supplemental request to expend or to extend those funds for you all. In the meantime, that does mean that RSO is having to be kind of intentional and diligent in the requests that they have, because currently they do not have a lot of funding remaining compared to what's coming in. So just so you all are aware, we may hear that from some of the clubs or organizations just reaching out to us. We haven't yet. It was just specifically from the Slice office. So I believe that is all that I have received.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks, Joey. Just kind of a point of minutes, I see that we have Sean Dolan and Lila Gallagher joining us for the attendance and all that. So I'll go ahead and move forward on to first call for public comment. Alrighty, going once, going twice. So we'll go ahead and move into new business. So we're going to be continuing our base funding annual reports, starting with campus activities. If Joey or Jessica, if you can share your screen with the reports, that'd be fabulous. Yeah, and let's just jump right into it. Yeah, because if I recall, yeah, we basically said we're going to go from campus activities all the way down through KCWU and then kind of go through the next couple after that. I believe there's one that kind of couples with KCWU, the same manager, and then go from there. So we'll start off with campus activities.
Jessica, are you able to share that since I'm on a phone?
I'm working on it.
No, you're good. I just wanted to verbally say it so you didn't sit here assuming I was there. They're coming
No.
up. They're coming up.
Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
One kind of general question, and one more specific to campus activities. What's bad debt? And in the case of campus activities, I was wondering how their negative fund balance was going to affect the rest of the quadrennium, because they said unforeseen insurance costs and like.
So I'll give a brief, but I'm going to wait until Lacey can give you an official answer on the bad debt here, because I don't want to give you the wrong info. It's an accounting piece on there. It's nothing that was like negligence or anything of the campus activities, but it's an accounting function that they do in the system. Lacey can give us a better answer when she returns, but I think that question should go directly to Circ Accounting. Campus activities won't be able to answer that, but I think the other question, because they're going to look at it, that stuff happens in the system, so she can specifically say what that was as it applies to campus activities. But the other question I think is absolutely valid to ask of campus activities.
Perfect. Thank you, Joey. I see Brandon and then Sean.
Bad debt as a concept is just basically when we try to receive accounts or like revenue from people that like they'll purchase something on an account, and bad debt is basically when they are unable to pay that account, really, so we don't actually receive the revenue we expected to.
Yeah, the only thing that I was going to add, and Joey, make sure that I'm not saying the wrong thing here, but I noticed on the form that it has Robbie as kind of the program manager. She's actually not with campus activities anymore, I believe. So
as of yesterday, she has moved into a new role as our director of orientation and new student programs.
Yeah, so I mean, Joey's kind of over everything at the university anyway, so that doesn't matter. And that's more of a joke, but he's doing a great job. But if it's not Robbie, then it would be Amber that we would ask these questions to. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
So just pointing that out.
Awesome. Thank you for the clarification there. Do you have any more points of discussion for campus activities? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move forward to the next one. I think the campus community garden there is yeah, they all start with C. It's kind of gets into like a maze. Yeah, what's up, Bjorn?
They mentioned the oven that wasn't completed, and that gave them some stuff that would have rolled over if not for the changes that we recommended. This is more like of a procedural thing, because I know a lot of different groups are gonna be probably asking for their rollover to remain with them. What do they have to do that? And if they don't do whatever they have to do, when does the rollover come back to the S&A pool?
Great question, Bjorn. Joey, is that a bit of a Lacey question or?
No, I mean, yes, but I can jump in and answer it. So the when it comes back, honestly, because you're talking about the rollover that we recommended fall quarter, is that right, Bjorn? Making sure I'm answering the right question. The unspent funds.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're essentially right now it's waiting on the official approval from Joel as the CFO. Because right now it's simply a recommendation. So there's not a date set on when that would roll back. It would be sometime this fiscal year. My assumption with where things are and knowing is it would likely be the end of the fiscal year. Is any unspent funds period, whether it's from this year or previous years, would get rolled back altogether. It could be earlier, but knowing the timing of our budget stuff, all of it really depends on if and when it gets approved by Joel, and then it moves through the process. What was the first part of your question? That you asked a two-part question.
It was mostly about what process they would need to do.
Oh, right, to request.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so essentially they would do similar, and I say similar, but I know only Sean and Bjorn might have been around when we've done this. It's similar to the end of the base funding cycle. Any of those base funded units would need to reach out to us to get on the agenda to come before you all to say, hey, we know it's looking like we're going to roll back X dollars. We're requesting either to keep all of it or to keep this specific amount of it. And it's up to you all to make an exception to allow them to keep it or not. I'd say probably they'd have to have some justification, not just, hey, we'd like it for in case we spend things. They're probably going to need to say, hey, we would like to keep 25,000. Here's exactly what it's going towards. Here's what we planned. But it would operate as a request to you all that they would have to present and then be voted on.
Sounds great. Yeah, great question, Bjorn. You know, that's one of those things. So do we have any more discussion points, questions about the community garden? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move forward to the next one with career services on the west side. Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
This one, the negative fund balance didn't seem to be super clearly explained. So I was interested in a little more about what caused the negative fund balance.
Jessica, for the sake of can you scroll up to their answer to the last question, which is about the fund balance, that part? Mostly for the recording so people can see what Bjorn's referring to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Bjorn. This says that there's the outstanding balance, but not why.
Yeah, it seems similar to one of the ones last week you all had a question on. I can't remember which one of the CWU. It didn't articulate the cause of. So I think it's a good question to put back out.
Definitely. Is this something we would want to pull in sort of the person who filled it out, or will we bring them to committee, or will we just ask them to add that to their report and resubmit, Joey?
It's up to you all. We can submit it as a question and see the response back we get, and then determine, or you all can have them come in. I don't know if this is the case, but I'll share this. I do know that Career Services currently has an interim director who started with us in September, so who is not here during the last fiscal year, but was the one responsible for filling this out. So I don't know if that has to do with they don't know the why. Or
Definitely.
not, but yeah.
It's Cat, right? Or
Yes.
okay. Yeah, definitely. It would be, I would think we could just, not to be all, if we can fit it in an email, but it does kind of seem like one of those things. So maybe just kind of reach out and see if we can just kind of reach back, like kind of bring it back to committee just as communications received. I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah, but definitely. Yeah, looking at it, it doesn't quite, but anywho, you all covered that really. Perfect. Any more points of discussion or questions for West Side Career Services? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move on to the next report. And that's Central News Watch. Perfect. And who wants to get us started? Go for it, Bjorn. You got it.
Thank you. At the top, they mentioned that the new manager should be in place by in January 2023. I'd be interested to see, now that January 2023 has come, whether that new manager is in place as intended. Additionally, they mentioned that students in the communication department had fallen, and basically the pathway for more students in journalism had fallen because of that. I know that communications is not funded by us, but that was I'd be interested in knowing why communications dropped. I know that the College of Arts and Humanities used to use a per student funding model, but I would be interested in hearing more.
Yeah, great point, Bjorn. We could definitely reach out to them, or Joey, if you have any insights, go for it. Yeah.
No, I don't at this time. I know they were looking at it, but again, with me being out earlier and just coming back, I do not know an update on where they're at.
Yeah, go for it, Sean.
I don't know an update exactly on that position, Bjorn, as you can imagine, with but in terms of budgets being slashed and different things, if this position is tied to a staff member or somebody that's not a tenure track professor, I know that's been difficult for departments at times, so they've had to sometimes cut back or even cut completely certain positions. I don't know if that would be the case here, but that's something that I would imagine we'd get a report back on from, but Francesco is the department chair, so we should know the answer either way. So, but that's at least a little bit of insight from our own department and others that I know are dealing with the same kind of thing.
Would we be able to tell that by, you know, how they have to give back essentially the monthly salary for every month that they haven't hired? Would we see that by now because it's February, or is a little more time has to pass before we'll fully know that from the reimbursement?
We would, but I know like for January, it won't be for for at least another week for them to go through and close out January. So yeah, I think asking Francesco is going to be the easiest.
Yeah, simplest. Yeah. No, I was just curious if there's a little piece of data that'll kind of indicate, but yeah, fair enough. Alrighty. With that in mind, do we have any more discussion points or questions for a report? Alrighty. Seeing none, well, first I'd encourage you all to check out their YouTube. It's pretty cool. And then have us move on forward to the Diversity and Equity Center. Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
first I wanted to compliment them for including so much information in the supplemental stuff. That was really helpful. But at the bottom of the first page, they had a carry forward balance, and it was due to a directive from Student Success to hold on spending for the remainder of fiscal year 22. I don't know when this directive came. Like during the fiscal year, I'd be interested to know that. And I hadn't heard anything about it before, so I was just curious to know when that went out and how many people were affected by it.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it, Joey.
Sorry, was trying to unmute and lower my hand at the same time. So yeah, I give a little bit on that. Some of that was given, and it depends on the individual supervisor on exactly, but it would have been about winter quarter of last year. It was honestly in response, it was not from necessarily the division heads, but it was in response to the conversation about the 5% reduction last year that was being looked at as it was being determined by division heads. That was shared with some of the senior leadership because it never got determined by the individuals who shared this. They told their directors to hold until it could be determined. As we kind of shared at the beginning of fall quarter, some of those decisions didn't get made, but the directors were given, hey, no on any additional spending, so beyond salary or set programmatic things. And so you'll see that on a couple of the annual reports from the area, is they were asked to hold back with the thought that they may need to take an additional reduction. Does that answer your question, Bjorn?
It does, and as I recall, the deck took a particularly significant reduction. Is there anything we can do? I mean, we've passed the recommendation to have rollover funds come back to S&A, but it seems a little bit unfair to have these groups receive the basically soft spending freeze request, and then the next year to have all that stuff that was kind of frozen roll back to S&A. Is there any way we could like somehow suspend the rollback order for the ones who were told to not freeze, but to cease additional expenses?
Great question. What's up, Joey?
So I'll give you two answers. So the one answer to your technical question, yes, we could. My recommendation, and I'm going to be wearing two hats as I say this, one is your advisor, and two, as the appointing authority over some of these units. One, it's hard to know which of these units because the directive didn't come from S&A. It was a supervisor decision in some of these areas, which makes it difficult. My recommendation to you all, and what I would recommend with my directors, honestly, is to plan on spending all of their funds for this year, but if they know they're going to need or want to use those funds, to put in a supplemental request to you all. I'll be honest with you, it seems like a really easy thing to be like, hey, let's go spend $50,000. Unless they have an intentional plan on what to do with it, it's hard to spend that, which I know sounds crazy, but it is, especially within that time frame. And so I would, instead of putting in place, hey, a freeze for any of those, I would almost just put it to you all to be mindful. Some of these areas outside of the committee were asked by their supervisors to hold on spending. We can give a response back saying, hey, unless it's coming from the committee, we want you to spend your money, which we tried to give a little bit last year. But I would just encourage them to come to you all and request, and just be mindful as they do come and request those, that you all now know that this was happening. And so that may have some weight in your decision to allow them to keep some of those funds. But that'd be my recommendation.
Would it be outside of our purview? I don't necessarily want to be heavy-handed enough to hit the supervisors with, no, you should have spent all your money. but it does seem worthwhile to basically tell people, hey, if you had to do a soft spending freeze in fiscal year 22, we're open to listening. At least it seems like something we could say to avoid them feeling like they've kind of been gotten whiplash, kind of.
No, I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, great idea, great idea. Do we have any more discussion points or questions for the Diversity and Equity Center's report? Also, don't mind Merlin, he just likes the attention. Yeah, go for it, Sean.
So I should have said this for the past one, but with the Diversity and Equity Center, and Joey, if you already said this, my apologies, but they actually have a new program manager as well that started recently. So if that wasn't said, just a reminder that they have somebody new there. So I'm not sure what that report will look like or what answers they'll have for that.
I did not, but that's a very good point to share, Sean. Yeah, they have an interim director currently right now for this year, who is the one who filled this out but was not in the role last year. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out. I should have mentioned because it's actually Kat moved from the Diversity and Equity Center to Career Services. So it's funny that they're right next to each other. Alrighty, any last questions, comments, concerns? Perfect. Alrighty, seeing none, I'll have us move forward to the next report. Alrighty, who wants to get us started off with a discussion point, question, comment? Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
Near the top, they mentioned just a vacancy, and given that things had changed in the S&A recommended policy, I was just interested to see if that position had been filled after 1 month or before 1 month, just to see what we might be ending up with. The other one was on the funding table. It says service and activities-based funding financial overview for the month ending October 31st. It was unclear to me whether the second line, CWU allocation, was also part of, I'm sorry, sales and services, whether that was part of S&A money, whether this table was for only S&A money, or whether it also involved self-support funds and the grants that they alluded to.
Great question, great question. Do we have any insights on that, Joey? Or yeah, go for it, Sean.
Yeah, I don't usually have answers to a lot of these questions, but some of the organizations I do know a little bit about, and I'll let Joey chime in too. In terms of the vacancy, Bjorn, that you had asked about, I know it says NA on the form. There was a vacancy. I know that one, the full-time position has been filled. I know that employee has been working. But Joey, maybe you can add some more to that, or the other questions that Bjorn has.
Alrighty, I think Miss Joey's trying to unmute himself. Move forward there. Perfect. Yeah, great discussion point. We'll see if they can just kind of get an update on that. So it's all.
So Joey just accidentally dropped off, and he's trying to rejoin. So he will be back in a moment.
Okay. Perfect. See, yeah, I thought he'd say something. Perfect. Okay. Give him a minute then. Okay, I think it might be good. Is Joey still trying to rejoin, or because we can always just kind of note that down for when he pops back in, if that's all right.
Yeah, his internet froze, so I don't know if he's going to be able to join right away. I'm not seeing him.
Okay, no worries. And yeah, Bjorn, Sean, if you want to hold that thought until Joey pops back in, we can kind of just loop back around to it when he rejoins. Perfect. Yeah, with that in mind, do we have any more discussion points or questions, comments for the Early Childhood Development Center? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move forward to the next report. KCWU, and I believe this one, we kind of wanted to give Tommy the opportunity to kind of talk on behalf of two requests that he's doing. I don't remember the exact name of the other one, but yeah. So I don't know if we want to do those together. Yeah, let me pull up the name really quick, see if
It's the last one on the list, Judy.
okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, well, since he's not here, we'll just go ahead and do one at a time and go from there. I think that's fine. All right, do we have any points of discussion, questions, comments for KCWU? Yeah, go for it, Sean.
Judy, sorry about that. So the position or the vacancy, that was actually KCW that I was talking about, and I had gotten mixed up with that. So just a heads up there. That wasn't for the Early Childhood Learning Center. My apologies.
Yeah, no worries. It happens. So, okay, we'll hold that thought for KCWU. So that would that here, let's go ahead and revisit Bjorn's question really quick. Does that Bjorn, does that change the answer to your question? Sorry, it's getting a little muddled in here. Yeah, we'll just hold those thoughts until Joey gets back and clarify from there. Any other comments for KCWU or questions? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move forward to the next report. Alrighty, do we have a comment, question, concern for the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Series? Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
In the fund balances section, they mentioned that they won't have any more department or college funds. And I think I remember Lion Rock getting funds like sporadically from the college, but I just wanted to check in on the structure of that funding. I know the Thayer funds were like a one-time thing, but I wanted to check in on the rest of it.
Yeah, definitely. We can submit that as a question for him and kind of just see what the status is. Especially if it's sporadic, probably good to just kind of check in. Yeah. Do we have any insights from advisory on that or? No worries. Well, great question, Bjorn. Yeah, we'll go and check in on that. Do we have any more comments, questions, concerns for Lion Rock? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move forward to the next report. Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
I only recently discovered what a number is, so I'm a little confused on this one. They say not applicable for any positive or negative fund balances, but at the bottom of the chart, the ending fund balance for fiscal year 22 appears to be a little over 4,500, and I can't tell if I'm reading the chart wrong, or if there was just some kind of I don't know, mishap in filling out the form.
Yeah, I see your point there. It's a bit of a lacy question, but I see, like, considering, past discussions, past reports, it does seem to be a bit of a discrepancy. So I think that'll be good to check in with Joey / Lacey on, and then check in with them if it is a discrepancy. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, do we have any other comments, questions, concerns? Alrighty, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward to the next report. Awesome. And just so y'all know, we've surpassed we've gone through CWU, so these are all sort of extras. So just to kind of do a check-in, how do we feel about kind of doing this on the fly? Would you like to review another set for next time? Or does reviewing it this way feel good to y'all? Just kind of doing a check-in with that. Do we want to keep moving forward and just keep going until we can go till 6, maybe even 7 if y'all want? What are our thoughts on that?
I mean, going till 6 or 7 sounds fine here.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Alice. And Bjorn?
I worry that going through them on the fly will result in more missed details. I'm sure I've missed something. I also want to since we've unexpectedly lost Joey and Lacey is still out, it might be worthwhile to pause. I think we were prepared to go through marching band last time, but I don't remember exactly where.
Yeah, I can check the recording from last time. It sounds about right. But yeah, sounds good. So how do we feel? I feel like we've gotten a decent chunk. Let me see. My one concern is just making sure we finish these up in a good enough time to kind of have some breathing room before program reviews. So let me just see. So after the marching band report, we will have, let's see. I want to say 23. Oh, hi, Joey. Welcome back. It looks like we're gonna have about 23 reports, if my counting's correct. So I think that would be, if we do a similar amount each time, I think we should probably be all right. All up to you, of course. Like I say, I'm just a tiebreaker. I just facilitate. But yeah, how do we feel about that? Do we want to kind of wrap up after marching band? Divvy up what we want to cover for next meeting?
That sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Perfect. Thank you, Brandon. And now okay, we'll go ahead and just go through review marching band. We'll get to ask our questions to Joey that I had Bjorn and Sean hold on to, or we'll we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Perfect. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go through the marching band report. Do we have any discussion, comments, questions? Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
I am once again faced by my old nemesis numbers. The fund balance question answered an expected balance budget. In the numbers, I'm seeing an ending fund balance in 22 of 51, almost 52,000. And I wasn't sure. I think it's entirely possible that I'm reading it wrong. I just wasn't sure exactly how the budget balanced out.
Yeah, so, and Joey, for a little context, that kind of ties in when we were going through, and I'll let Bjorn get into this a little more later, but when we were going through the Early Childhood Learning Center, was it? We had a similar, or in the Lion Rock. Actually, sorry, Bjorn, I'll let you go ahead and get into your other questions because I feel like that kind of relates with like how to read the charts and everything. So yeah, I just go for it and we'll dive into that question.
Yeah. For ECLC, my question was simply on whether the chart includes self-support funds and other stuff, because on that one, they had mentioned an allocation, but also sales and services money, and the chart seemed to cover all of that, not just the allocation. And they referenced a grant as well that I wasn't sure if that was part of allocation or sales and services or what, or if it appeared in the chart at all. I think it was Lion Rock. I was just wondering about the nature of the college funds. And in Monastash, I think, yeah, Monastash was the one where they said not applicable for fund balances. And I was confused at the chart because it seemed to imply that there was fund balance, or if that just had to do something with the year-to-year cycle. I don't know.
Yeah, because it was that figure at the bottom, right, of the chart, like the just under the column below net resources. Yeah.
Yeah, that was confusing because like it made me wonder, now that I look at it, is their allocation per year 4,500?
So you're asking questions on multiple of them and making me mentally jump through, just so you know. So if I miss any of these here,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
answer, oh no, you're good. So to work through some of these, so ECLC I can answer no. What is on the report they had is only their S&A budget. So they have a whole other self-support generated that's through their fees and their grants. That is not on the S&A one that's there. It's a pretty massive budget they have separate from what you all are looking at in the annual report. So the financial part, because is that what you're talking about? Is that financial pretty much the ECLC version of what we're looking at on the screen now, right? Yeah, so that's just their S&A revenue that they're receiving. Thank you, Jessica. Because I'm trying to look at this.
For that one, what's the difference between sales and
Yep. So now that I'm looking at, so the when you look at sales and services is some of those. The allocation revenue, that's the S&A fee portion of it. So they have additional budget numbers. These are just what's going into this account. They have other ones that don't fit on here, but some of those are the sales and services that goes into this, but it's not the full ECLC budget itself. And to answer, and then jumping around to some of your other ones that we were just on, some of them like the marching band, you may have to ask, it may not be that you are reading it incorrectly when you're looking at the budget. Some of them, their answers, especially to the question about ending fund balance, there was some confusion with some directors about which year they were answering. So the budget numbers we're looking at are all for fiscal 22, which is last academic and fiscal year. But because they were filling it out in the fall, some of them were answering the anticipated balance budget for this year. So I think it's relevant in the questions we follow up to say, hey, looking at this, it looks like you had a negative or a positive fund balance, but your answer said you thought it was going to be balanced. Can you touch on why it wasn't, or why whatever that is?
On those the projected beginning and ending fund balances, on a balanced budget, does the ending budget look like zero, or does it look identical to the beginning fund balance?
So if you're saying a balanced budget, the ending fund balance, if you're looking at it, so if they spent exactly what they brought in, that ending fund balance would be the same as the beginning fund balance. Because you'd start the year with 45,000. If they spent all of their revenue for this year and nothing more, they would end the year with that same 45,000. I see what your question is. They're trying to read through what that is. Okay. So essentially what you're really looking at for the year itself is the line above that where it says net resources. That's for the year itself. So that's their revenue minus their expenses for the year. So they left on the table just about $6,000 that they did not spend out of this year or last year's revenue.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you. That also clears up my question about Monastash, because they're going into 23 with about the same as they came out of 22 with. Although they also had a beginning fund balance of 0 at the beginning of 22. Were they not funded before?
No, Monastash was. They had just spent all of their funds, if I remember correctly. So for 22, most of them shouldn't, because that was if I'm remembering, the first year of the base funding cycle. Some of them did if they had self-support or if they requested their funds. But most of them would have started and should have started with a 0 balance.
Okay. I see. That sort of clears it up. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying, Joey. Sorry to bombard you with multiple reports worth of questions. We sort of just like saved them. So appreciate your.
No, I apologize. Getting cut off there and then coming back. So my side on the internet connection, but let me know if there were any questions that I may have missed. Otherwise, I'll go back and watch the section of the recording later.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think that was pretty much all of them. It was, yeah, we literally just saved them for now. So that should be, unless anyone else has any questions, I believe that was all I had. So yeah, on behalf of Bjorn. Great. So, alrighty. So back to the marching band report. Do we have any sort of last discussion, comments, concerns? If not, we can go and move forward to kind of divvying up what to read for next time. Alrighty, seeing none, we'll go ahead and just go back and look over how many we want to do for next time. Let's see. So for today's meeting, we did 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we did about 10. So I think, do we want to do another like 10 to 12 and just plan on going through all of those? Okay, sounds great. And if the load of it kind of feels like a lot, you can always look at them and just kind of see how complex they look, and then just really look into the ones with a little longer explanations, things like, or any surplus, deficit balance justifications. Just look at that, and then we will be here to look over it as a group. So yeah, no worries. Swiping advisory. So all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead then with 10 in mind. We'll go ahead and cover from the Observer all the way down to, let's see, looks like Sarah Spurgeon Art Gallery for the scheduling center. Oh,
wouldn't that be the museum down?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, totally. I just saw an M and I was like, well, we're done with the M. So yeah, perfect. Thank you, Joey. Yeah. So we'll go from Museum of Art and Culture to the Sarah Spurgeon Art Gallery. Perfect. Yep. And then what was that, Brandon?
I was gonna say what Joey said.
Yeah, totally. Appreciate y'all. Awesome. So then, okay, perfect. For sake of minutes, I'm just gonna go ahead and name each one individually. So we have Museum of Culture and Environment, Observer, Office of Case Management, Office of International Studies and Programs, Office of Student Involvement, Office of Undergraduate Research, Pep Band, Publicity Center, Pulse, and the Sarah Spurgeon Art Gallery. And so we're going to cover all of those reports for next time, where I'll go ahead and review it and go from there. Awesome. So with that in mind, let me get my little agenda up here. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and open up to old business. So we have a question for Joey. So do committee members need to turn in any notes they've taken about each annual report to you, or is that sort of like a informal process there?
So if there's notes beyond, like if you're writing a question down right now that you then ask on there, no, I would say. But if you're reviewing and making kind of diligent notes as you're reviewing it, yes, and we would actually send those to Jessica, so we can compile all of them again, because it's a public meeting. If we're taking notes on things that we're reviewing beyond what we're discussing, we want to keep record of that. If you're sitting in the meeting right now and you're jotting a note because Joey's in the middle of talking, you don't want to forget your question, and then you ask your question, no, you don't need to turn that in. Does that help clarify?
Sounds good. Yeah, what I'm hearing is as long as it's made transparent, then that's fine. Okay.
Absolutely, yep.
Perfect. Alrighty, awesome. Well, then with that clarification, that concludes our old business. So I'm going to go ahead and move us into our second call for public comment. I see we had Lola join us. If you have any announcements, feel free to pop on in. Yeah, public comment.
Not today, sorry.
No
See you
worries.
next week.
Not to put you on the spot, Lola. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
She's
I
gonna
just, like,
come with an announcement now next week. She'll just make
Right.
one up.
I'll come up with something great next week.
my mind just goes publicity center, public comment. Mhm,
Yeah.
definitely. No worries. Perfect. Okay. Well, with that in mind, going once, going twice. Alrighty. I'm gonna go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll move to adjourn.
Perfect. We've got a motion from Brandon. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Perfect. We got a second by Alice. So this meeting is now adjourned at 5:57 p.m. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks all. Have a great 2 weeks. See ya.
Thank you.